Are we live?
Yes, we are.
What's going on, Terry?
Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for bringing me by your office today. This is great. This is good stuff.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome.
well, thank you. And I guess technically also welcome on the FreightCaviar podcast.
Thank you.
We're both
Thanks for the
welcoming each other.
opportunity. Yeah, thanks for
This is cool.
thanks for making me do it.
Yeah.
It's
I
been,
made you do it?
well, sort of. It's been a while and
Yeah.
talking and trying to agree on things, right? But,
Sure. It's the last day before I fly to Poland, so
Yes.
we got it right
Yes.
in.
we can do
Right
another
in.
one online maybe one day. If
Yeah,
we
yeah.
Can,
This
we
is
can-
nicer though. We
so-
bought the
yeah,
red
we
caviar
got.
today.
Do you care to explain what we got going on over
We
here?
got the Krasnoy.
Krasne Zolota.
Krasne Zolota. This is red caviar, guys. We just bought it. Was that a Russian shop we bought it at?
Yeah, some kind of Russian.
It was
show.
a-
It doesn't
yeah.
really matter as long as it's a Russian caviar, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it looks pretty nice. It was $31 plus tax, so it's not the cheapest thing in the world. But yeah, so we're gonna try out some caviar since it's the FreightCaviar podcast. I figured.
And what are we going to talk about today?
We're gonna talk about you.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Not just about me. You
well,
mean about
not just about you. Yeah, but I'm curious. Well, first of all, Terry Ivanov of UTech.
Yes.
Could you tell us something more about yourself?
Work for UTech. My name is Terry Ivanov. I've been in industry since 2008, in the trucking industry overall, right? I've done everything from dispatching to, from data entry, dispatching, operation management, charge of a dispatch, and with years and years and years of work put in, eventually got into a technology, and now here I am. I'm pretty much an advisor for a tech company. And I, my main job, what I do every day is basically I run an operation on a TMS project, transportation management system, and that's what I do daily, right? But in my interest overall, the industry itself, the trucking, became a thing for me. I never thought that I'm going to end up working in trucking or logistics overall. And here I am that many years later I am in trucking. I'm related still too because we sell our products to customers that are, carriers mostly. We do have a few brokers that use our technology, but mostly our software is sharpened for carriers to use. And, I'm pretty much in charge of this project. We got a huge team in Ukraine, big team in here in Chicago. And we sell our products, all across the United States to all our carriers that we know, that know us,
Sure.
that for whatever reason, and they needed software. We can touch on the subject later because there's really a ton of things that we can talk about this specifically. But I know you wanted to kind of have a conversation with me regarding my overall experience in logistics, right? And you've been You've been in a part of a business which is what I call the other side of the fence, right?
Sure.
Brokerage, right?
Yeah.
We know some people, apparently, right? After
Yeah.
years in the industry, you know
Sure.
some people that I know, and that's
Definitely.
how we got to talk and have this conversation. So I guess go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself again, too. I'm sure you've said it so many times already on these podcasts, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, yeah, guys, I'm FreightCaviar. I live in Poland. I spent 3 years in Ukraine. So Terry's from Ukraine. And you said you have an office in Ukraine, which I
Yeah,
actually...
in Lviv, yeah.
in Lviv.
Mhm.
Very cool. I spent 3 years in Kiev. Had a great time. Love Ukraine. And I definitely see it being a big logistics outsourcing hub. And I'm curious if we could talk about that for a little bit. Maybe
Okay.
just Ukraine. Like, are you...
You mean Ukraine, or
Like,
just outsourcing concept?
just like about logistics and Ukraine.
Okay.
So you guys have an office out in Lviv,
Mhm.
and just can you tell me about like how does that look like? What do you outsource? What kind of jobs do you outsource, and what does it provide for the company?
Sure. Well, the Lviv office was born by a technology company, right? And we've, what has it been, 2017, something like
Okay.
that, a few years, 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years, I think that is, right? And most of our development support and just overall onboarding team is there, right? And that's magic of outsourcing, right? Because people are looking to get things done cheaper in the way,
Yeah.
right? First there was India, right, China, and then somehow Ukraine became like a number 2 or 3 on a list of outsourcing countries out there that do have a lot of specialists that work
Sure.
in the industry. And I think the trucking industry itself brought a lot of that outsourcing there, and that also what gave it a push for tech companies to come in, or vice versa. I'm not sure which one began first, but I think they either began doing it at the same time, or something happened where trucking industry needed to expand, right? And that outsourcing allowed to do things not necessarily cheaper. I personally seen companies that done it really well and the quality have not gone down at all. Like you can compare easily dispatchers from Chicago, from all across U.S.
Definitely.
with the guys out there, right?
Sure.
Not all of them are as professional or as trained, but there's a lot of good talent out there, and I think it's plus the community, right? Who are most of the drivers you're dealing with on a daily basis. They're from Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania. Same thing happens in Lithuania. Same thing happens in Russia. There's a lot of outsourcing there too. But
Sure.
when we talk about Ukraine specifically, I think that community brought that idea back there, right? I'd say probably first time I've heard of some kind of companies doing outsourcing was like 2015, 16, and then it kind of became a thing, right?
Sure.
Really fast because trucking companies saved a lot of money on getting people to work for them from Ukraine. And firsthand, it was like a little bit, everybody was scared of it. Everybody was like, you know what, all these trucking companies outsourcing something, we're not sure. What about the quality? What about the people? How well they can communicate? How well they can, deliver the message, and how well they can work with you, with brokers, right?
Yeah.
And but then I think everyone, time passed and everybody got a little bit comfortable with it, and we ended up having now, I don't know, 90% of the trucking companies, Eastern European trucking companies, with some sort of either dispatch or support or accounting or safety department, or some of them out there have whole offices set up and with like only 3 people in U.S. and they're operating 100 trucks on the road just fine, right?
Sure.
So that's what I've seen so far. And technology obviously, took the same path, right? Because no matter what you say or do, hiring an experienced programmer or developer in U.S. is at least 3 to 4 times more expensive than it is one in Ukraine. Yeah. And we, no disrespect or anything, but the quality of life there is cheaper, right? You can get your apartment for cheaper. You can get your
of course,
whatever
you're still
for
making
cheaper.
Great money for paying them 3 times, 4 times less.
Yes. So, and there's a lot of talent out there, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool guys that know what they're doing, that speak English. I work with a bunch of guys that are like 21, 22, 23 years old, and they have no problem having a conversation with you. They're proficient. They almost fluent in English, and I don't see a problem why that is. Why would somebody be afraid of it? I think we should endure this in a way and say, you know what, why not? Right? Let's push it out there, see what happens. That gives a lot of people an opportunity. Not everyone necessarily wants to, go and live abroad and work, right? Some people want to stay where they at, but make a better living. So there it is. I think that's perfect opportunity for a lot of people here.
No, I agree. I mean, I saw it for myself, by myself when I was at Everest. I mean, people were able to enjoy life for the first time. Have money saved up. It was a great thing to have and see, and so I definitely see the positives of it. So you said you have about 60 people in Ukraine. Is that
altogether, yes, something like that.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys there. So the whole development team is there. UTEC itself, we in UTEC we have 2 products, right? The GPS tab ELD. That's your necessity, right? If you get into a trucking business, you have to have an ELD. And the second product is Unique TMS, is the management software that I talked about. Sure. But most of the team was dedicated now to at a certain point to a GPS tab. Now the GPS tab grew as a product and became self-sustainable product that just continuously growing. Yeah. TMS kind of fell into the second place as a focus, right? Because of the complexity of it, because how long it takes to develop, how long it takes to test and to launch the product. But now with from beginning of this year, we gained like 30 something customers, and we're doing well, and it's I hope it continues. It became a passion.
So is it tough to get customers in your TMS? Like, how long did it take you, and what was the process? What did the process look like to get a customer on a TMS that you? Because obviously at one point you had no customers, and then all of a sudden someone was like, "Oh, I want to use this out." And I mean, I've seen the software; it looks great. Like, I would have been sold on it. So I'm curious how that process looked like to getting that customer.
Well, that's probably one of the trickiest part of everything. At least that's the way I see it, right? One of the reasons is that because ELD is a necessity, right? It's like you cannot drive without the driver license. You cannot drive without the ELD. You have to have it, right? It's a law. It's a mandate, government, federal level, whatever. A TMS is more of a luxury, if you will. So not everyone necessarily wanted to or have a capability of, saying one day, you know what, I wish I can grow, but certain things, the way that I'm doing certain things. I've seen a lot of customers, on my calls with them and intros showing me, notepads saying, dude, I'm tired of it. What can I do? And then there's guys out there, they're using spreadsheets, and they run their companies just well. They're very organized. They know what they're doing, so they don't have any problems using spreadsheets. And they're either free or inexpensive. Get it off of Google, right? It's almost free. TMS is not, but there's certain benefits to it, and there's certain time. It's not even the cost of it. It's how much time and dedication you have to put into the whole thing to do the whole onboarding process, to understand what goes where, to understand all your integrations that you need, to do the onboarding, to have someone in the office who's capable of training people, to have someone in the office who can explain it well, who can learn it himself, who can explain it well, and who can make sure that everything actually works. So it's not easy. Just like any CRM, takes time. Management systems, all of them across the board, no matter what you do, if you're in trucking or you're selling software, whatever that is, there has to be some sort of place where you keep your stuff organized, right?
Sure.
And that's what TMS does. I tell everyone that I talk to, all my friends and customers that are in trucking, I was like, I want to buy a TMS. I was like, well, sure, let's do it. But I'll tell you up front, it's not going to be easy. Don't think I'm going to press 2 buttons and everything's going to happen for you magically. It's not the case. Sure. That's not what it's for, or at least it's not the way it works yet, right? Technology is advancing fast, but there's still so many things that you have to go through in order to make sure you deploy it properly.
Yeah.
And that's a caveat of it. I mean, that's where you like, shit, I thought I'm going to press 2 buttons, pay you money, and everything's going to magically happen for me. It's not the case at all.
Sure. So, like, with technology improving, advancing, what do you think are going to be in the next few years, like major changes? Like, do you think there's going to be like selfless driving trucks on the road? Like, how do you think the TMS software is going to improve? What kind of advancements do you foresee?
Selfless driving trucks. That's a cool stuff, right? Technology and all that, but at the end of the day, I don't know how long it's going to take for selfless driving truck to kick on. Not because they don't have the technology to make a truck, but because they don't have an infrastructure.
Sure.
Charging ports, and that's a whole separate conversation, right? That we can talk for hours here. But the infrastructure of roads, number one thing, and TMS itself. So the biggest thing that we see now, just overall, and you've probably run into this, you've told me that you've used all different type of TMSs before in brokerage as well, the data entry, right? That's what usually takes the most time out of your day, because you have to get that rate confirmation, type it manually, and store it in the system, and dispatch your driver. So the question everybody's asking is, how do you streamline that process? How do you make it quick, simple, and easy, right? And part of it is software, but part of it is actual process, right? So a lot of companies don't have the process in place, and if they do, it's not very organized. And TMS not necessarily, supplies you the easy part of it or makes something easier to enter, but it kind of teaches you or makes you go through certain steps, keeping your people more organized, keeping your accounting more organized, keeping your dispatcher more organized, keeping your safety manager more organized.
Sure.
You don't lose stuff. You don't lose information. You don't lose pictures. You don't lose rate confirmations. Those type of things, right?
Yeah.
But automation of that process, that's where that technology comes in. And people asking often, I'm talking to all sorts of technology companies that do things like analytics and stuff. And it's like whenever we start talking about trucking, it's a very underappreciated business. And it's very underdeveloped in a technology specifically, because a lot of people out there simply didn't embrace it early enough.
Sure. Everyone's still old school. I mean, how many trucking companies still use fax machines, you know?
Yeah, how many trucking companies you work with? You've worked with dozens of them, right? Hundreds of
Thousands.
them. Thousands.
Yeah.
How many of them are using some sort of technology?
Yeah, no.
Probably
it's not,
1 in
it's not
10,
many.
if you're lucky.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's like all old school, you know, small business, like mom and pop kind of trucking shop where, you know, the guy in Wisconsin or Minnesota answers the phone and he's, you know, telling me, just fax it over me the rate count. I'm gonna fax right back to you. It's like, you know, it's not 1995 anymore.
And there's a lot of it, and there's a lot of it still in Chicago, right? And there's still there's a lot more of it out in more distant areas and states like you said, Minnesota and Montana maybe, right?
Kansas, Nebraska.
Yeah,
it's
the
like
guys
real
are
old school American.
Still using fax machines.
They're actually the best trucking companies, though. They're so.
Oh, and then on the subject of this, we're getting to that part. When you say they're the best trucking companies, as a Eastern European myself and guy that worked mostly in Chicago and dispatcher, right? I know you got something to say about this.
I got a lot to say on the topic.
So,
I mean, I've seen it all.
Yeah. So how do we you know how many times I've quoted someone on the phone, and I was told you must be from Chicago.
Yeah, for sure.
Guys from
100%.
like brokers from Kansas, like you said.
Yeah.
And they just hang up on me.
Yeah, I mean that's.
And I get the part of it, but like, is it just something that Chicago carriers earned?
It's funny. Yeah, I mean definitely. I mean Eastern Europeans are just trying to post their truck in debt and make as much money as possible, which is nothing wrong with that. If I had a trucking company, I'd do the same thing. It's supply and demand. You know, easy. The nice thing about like working with like an American trucking company from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Kansas, Nebraska, like a lot of them, even Colorado, like they usually provide you with fair rates. If they have a truck, like they're not gonna try to get $5 a mile out of you. They're gonna be, and I've also realized that they don't cancel unless like something happens with the truck. Like usually these companies have very few freight cards, if anything. If anything, there'll be like one freight card from like 10,000 days ago, just because they've been in business for like 40 years or 50 years. So from my experience working with companies that are like well established, like very American, I've had the best service with the best rates. So I mean, obviously, if I give you a load for $5 a mile, you're probably gonna service the hell out of it. You know, you're gonna have like because you're getting paid a lot of money. But like usually with companies out there, like you're gonna get that kind of service no matter how much you pay. Like they provide you.
Okay, so you're saying that Chicago carriers and maybe some New Jersey and New York carriers did so much to the market that it changed prices.
Wherever the Eastern Europeans are, that's where the rates are high.
That's what I'm saying. Like California as well, right? Same thing, right?
Well, California, it depends. But yeah, there's the whole Indian population, which is like, I'm not just trying to pick on the Indian population, but some of them are like, could be cheaper. And then some of them also have outrageous rates, like where they just like, you know, when they know the market's hot, they know how to negotiate. You know, they know the supply and demand. I would say that Hispanic carriers, like from Texas and Florida,
Laredo,
they give amazing rates. You know, if it's a load going home a backhaul, they'll take it for $1 a mile. They don't really care. They're not going to ask questions. Like from my experience, at least.
But I think it all comes down to cost of living in a way as well, right? Because running a trucking company in Chicago is a lot more expensive than running a trucking companies in Amarillo, Texas.
Why do you say so? I'm just wondering, just because of like the taxes and stuff?
Because a lot of reasons. Yeah, the taxes, the overall cost of living in Chicago. So you're not going to get an accountant to work for you for $600 a week. It's just not, because you won't be able to pay your bills. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So you're not going to get a dispatcher to work. Plus the concentration of companies, the amount of companies that open up here, and that there are like, we want to be that Chicago carrier, right? And we all live here and we all whatever, right? Mm-hmm. The cost of living comes down to that. Like, can you rent an apartment for $500 in Chicago? No, you can't. I mean, you can, but it's going to be a pretty shitty one, right?
Well, I mean, I would say that
it's not just that, but then you got insurance, right? Yeah. Liabilities, and that kind of brings up the whole, cost plus, the employees.
It could have a small effect on it, but overall, I definitely think it's just people trying to make as much money as possible. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Same thing with drivers, man.
Yeah, I completely get it, because if I owned a trucking company, I'd run my business the same way. Like, I'm trying to make money here,
because you're Eastern European.
Exactly, as an Eastern European, like it's in our blood, and I think it's more to do about the fact that like you want to know that you got the best rate, like paying the most amount of money, and a lot of dispatchers here on percentage, so it makes sense.
But it's market driven. Yeah. It's market driven, right? It's
true.
Market requires that. Yeah. Back in the day when I started, there were no dispatchers on percentage. I mean, there were, but the only guys that were making percentage were the guys that would stick 3 full loads in one trailer and screw up 3 deliveries and never make it on time to either one of them.
Especially Polish people. But
Polish, Lithuanian, Russian, Ukrainian, doesn't matter. But what I'm saying, there was no such thing, right? Yeah. And salaries grew exponentially back from then till now. I mean, you can hire a good dispatcher right now for less than, I don't know, $2,000 a week or something like that. Okay. Crazy, right? Some even more, and that's Chicago, right? And that's because of it's a market driven again.
Yeah.
The question is, why does the market, the whole U.S. market responds to it that way? That's the second question, right? So why would back in the day, back in 2009-10, I remember prices on your backhaul from New Jersey back to Chicago. No one was paying more than $600-$700.
Yeah.
Can you get a truck today from New Jersey to Chicago for $600? I don't think so, right?
No.
And it changed a lot. So it's very interesting how it's affecting the market.
Yeah.
You want to open up a can?
Yeah. So since we're on the topic of Eastern Europe, and I kind of have. I want to try it out. Let's see if it's actually.
You said you only had it once, and you didn't like it very much.
I've had it before. Like, I've actually had it like at a jar, like at a restaurant. I never purchased one like at a store before. Like this.
So it's simple. You just dig in with your spoon and.
Yeah. So we're gonna grab some
piece
red
of bread.
caviar. I'm not sure. We don't have a zoom on this camera, but pretty big eggs right here. Very sticky. Grab some dark.
It's bread. Okay. They're supposed to be that way.
So. No, yeah, it's great. You just spread it around. We're gonna give this caviar a score, a rating, just to see if it's good or not.
It's 8 out of 10. It's not very good, but it's good. It's not like
8 out of 10 is very good in my opinion.
The way you can tell really, when some of these are like sometimes they're too salty, and when it's like too salty. It either is like it's old, you know what I mean, or it's like it tastes a little weird.
It's tasty. I like how it pops in my mouth.
Yeah, and it's also with this bread, this specific, it adds that flavor to it, right?
So it translates to beautiful gold, right?
Which one?
Zoloto. Like that's like
no, red gold.
Red gold. Oh, krasny, yeah, krasny. So it's funny in Polish, it's. But okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. And this is from Russia, I believe.
Let me see. Well, I don't know, man, because
it's gonna be right here.
They do a lot of that now in New York and Brooklyn. There has to be somewhere where it's packaged.
This is distributed by a company in Washington.
There you go, Washington. There's a lot of it coming from like a West Coast as well. So
do you think it's from Russia? Like
I have no idea, man. I can only tell that it's from Russia or not by a label, because at the end of the day, it's all red caviar from salmon,
Okay.
And it's like, I mean, if you have 2 cans sitting one next to another, maybe you can tell, but otherwise it all comes from salmon. So the black one isn't, but black one is expensive, man. There's the one that I told you earlier about. It's called Petrosyan. The can of it is like this big of a can would be like $500, something like that. Crazy. Yeah. Comes
Crazy
from
stuff.
Beluga. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's tasty.
Yeah.
I like it. A little bit too salty for me.
Too salty?
Yeah. 8 out of 10 though. That's just. I'm not sure. It's difficult for me to give a score for caviar. I should, if I have like 100 podcasts, I'm going to be an expert in giving caviar ratings. But
Yeah, you haven't had enough yet.
I mean, I don't think it's an 8, to be honest. Do you ever watch Barstool Sports pizza reviews?
No.
No. So it's very strict.
I know what it is, but I
Yeah.
know.
Like, I mean, to be honest, I'd probably give it like a 5.9 out of 10.
Really? Okay.
Which is not bad.
No, it's not.
I don't think 5.9 is bad, but
it
like
tastes
I could eat it. I can't eat probably more than
from
once.
this much than
Yeah.
this much. Right? From my experience that I've tried, this is good. I mean, this is not
Okay.
relatively fresh, and it tastes well. So it's not very salty. That's my other thing that
Sure.
But anyways, what brought you? I mean, where the idea came from? FreightCaviar. I mean, I get
Where did
Freight,
the name
but
come from?
Yeah,
The
company
name came from, well, I was in my car in Poland driving, and I put on the Rap Caviar playlist on Spotify. And I don't know why. Like, for some reason, I was like, oh, FreightCaviar. I used to be shipping pallets. I'm like, this kind of works perfectly. I'm in Eastern Europe. Like, people like caviar. It's like, I like the name. And the funny thing is, like, when I changed my name, I got a lot of backlash. Everyone's like, why did you change your name from shipping pallets to FreightCaviar?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah,
well,
I remember you started off as shipping pallets.
Yeah, because you've been following me
for a while now.
Yeah, for a long time. And so, okay, I was like getting all these messages like, why'd you change your username? I'm like, damn, I thought everyone loved my username, my new username. And like, so I decided to do a poll on Instagram, and I had 1,000 people vote on it, and 800 people wanted me to have shipping pallets, only 200 like FreightCaviar.
Really?
But I feel like that's just because they were used to shipping pallets, and like right now, if I were to do that, it's the same question. It'd be like
Now everybody knows you as a FreightCaviar, and
Yeah.
there's just the end of it.
Yeah, and I'm having fun with it. I see there's a lot of potential for it. So
Cool. You want to take a short break?
discussion about freight and unboxing. So wait, Terry was a dispatcher. I think that's what we should talk about. And I'm a broker.
Sure, yeah.
Like,
I have some questions for you, by the way, but go ahead.
I'm finished eating.
Okay, so we talked earlier about how, people quoting the shit out of, brokers,
Eastern
right?
Europeans quoting,
And just like going crazy on rates and all that.
You know what we call them, Terry?
What?
Dat rats.
Dad rats?
Dat rats.
Okay, yeah.
Those are the people that quote you insane amounts of money when they know you're desperate, which is nothing wrong with that.
But wait, same thing happens with brokers, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, but the reason why, like,
Not defending anyone, I'm just saying it's a two-way
cyclical.
street.
It's a two-way street, and it's like both brokers and carriers are shady. Not all of them, obviously, not all of them, but there's a good amount. Like, logistics is a very shady industry, especially in America. I mean, I don't know, it's probably everywhere in the world, but
And that brings me to the next subject. I was actually, before today's podcast this morning, as I called it a shower thought, right? I was thinking, like, you know what? There's one question I wanted to ask. Why do you think none of them, brokers, carriers, in America specifically, right, are regulated to an extent where, like, let's say, you've seen it more than enough times, right, when brokers say, I'm going to pay you detention, and they don't ever, right? They just say,
sure,
screw off, and never pay you detention.
yeah. I mean, it happens pretty often, probably.
Yes. And then you've seen carriers that are going to say, you know what, I'm not coming to your pickup. Just whatever, right? Tire blew up.
Yeah.
There's a million of
Better load out there.
stories are like that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it has to be heavily regulated to an extent where you have to report something and so on, but like Carrier 411 exists. So if you're a broker and you want to report me as doing something weird and shady, you can.
Sure.
But if I'm a carrier and you're a broker doing the same thing to me, and I'm in the right, and you're in the wrong, we have no way of doing it. Carrier's got no way of doing it.
So why don't you create one?
Okay, sure.
I mean, in the sense, like, someo's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it, right?
At the same time, like, DAT's out there. Like, do you use DAT reviews?
Yes,
I mean,
but
DAT
still,
has a lot of trash brokers.
You know how many times we had a problem with when you get a report from Carrier 411, when then somebody wrote some stupid shit that doesn't make any sense, and the other guy is not going to give you a load because someone wrote something about you that might not be even true, or you replied to it and you actually had a good reason, that you've actually had a good reason,
Sure.
and you can do nothing about it because somebody wrote something. You have no other way of proving yourself, and then you're not getting a load because of this.
I mean, that's true. At the end of the day, I feel like there's not much you could do about it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, what could you
But
do?
that's what I'm saying. It has to be a two-way street, right? And I've asked that question. I've actually talked to a carrier for one representative a few times myself, and I called them about it. And they're like, I asked them that question. I was like, listen, how do we know that this information that they've shared about us is true? How do... Well, this is a service we provide. Well, thank you very much, but...
I mean, it's... At the end of the day, like, when I used to care for one, and I used it every day, I used to look up every MC that we worked with. And when we had 150 loads on the board, like, there's... If you know Carrier 401 and you know trucking companies, if you've been in the industry for a while, you understand which freight cards to look at. If there's a there's a report for double brokering a load, well, then you're probably a double broker, so I'm not going to give you the load.
Sure.
But if it's about no show, no call, I don't really care. I mean, that's going to happen.
Well, that you don't care,
it
but
depends
other
on
companies...
how many people out there. And
Yeah.
so, like, if the broker's going to take it like big, I'm not going to work with you, like, well, if he's not going to work with you because of a Carrier 401 report, maybe, like, at the end of the day, like, you shouldn't want to work with him anyway because he's not, wanting to work with you.
In a way, but I do have a story to support that quote, right? Because we used to do a lot of lows for Coyote back in the day, and some dumb thing happened, like somebody didn't show up on time somewhere or something, like whatever that was. I don't even remember what was it about. But the thing is that they wrote a report that we showed up 15 minutes later, some stupid reason that, whatever, it happened, right? Okay. But Coyote wouldn't give us a load, not because what it says in there, but because it had a report.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have a report. We were like, well, yeah, but there's explanation what happened. He's like,
Sure.
I don't care. My whatever department says that, that's, you're not going to get the load.
Well, if there's a compliance department where they just follow a strict rule or report, can't work with them. I mean, but that's also, it's stupid.
It's stupid, yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And but have you, curious from your experience of getting any reports, have you tried to get the broker to take them down? Like,
yes, we had,
and
but
sometimes were they successful, or no?
Sometimes we have success, sometimes not. But at the end of the day, I think there has to be a two-way street. So from a carrier perspective, it sounds like now it's your problem, deal with it. Yeah. And there's no solution for it. And that's what I'm saying. And I get it. There's a lot of dumb stuff going on in the world, right? But we're on the subject, and it's been going on for so many years. And most of the carriers don't have ways of, reaching back to those brokers and saying, hey, one of these guys that we both follow on Instagram now, what's his name?
Furman?
Yeah.
Furman,
that created a carrier, broker 411.
Broker 401. Hey, you should actually create a website called broker401.com.
Yeah. It's overall, it's a cool idea because, like, I'm not saying people just going to randomly go there and report, but when there's actual problem, right? Yeah. And you're trying to defend yourself. You're trying to make, things just, hey, it is what it is, but that's not true. We didn't do that. Or if we did do that, we had such and such circumstances, why it happened. Not everybody's an asshole out there, right? I'm sure there's people that are, and they're probably never going to get better. But like, we have to have some kind of, and that's what that's why I began the conversation. Is it necessarily a regulation? Not really, but it's a way to, communicate, right? And I think there has to be something like that in place eventually. And it doesn't have to be state or government or federal government regulated, no. But it has to be to a point where, like you go to court and you say, you know what, know that I'm right and he's wrong, and vice versa, right?
Sure.
Same thing. But at the moment, or years back, this thing didn't exist, and we kind of had to rely on ourselves, right? So
yeah. I mean, overall, I do think it improves, the work out there. Like, if brokers had a Carrier 401.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
But if there's Carrier 401 for reporting carriers.
Yeah.
You could also report brokers on Carrier 401, but it's not really relatively used that often, because most carriers don't have a Carrier 401 account. But if it works that way, where because of that, carriers, obviously they're working not to get freight guard reports. I feel like it kind of helps the industry in terms of like maybe having better quality. Like if there was no Carrier 401, there'd be a lot more shady stuff going on in the industry.
Oh, I agree with that. I think it's a good idea overall.
Yeah.
But my problem is it's only one way.
Sure.
Most of the time.
Well, I mean, the Carrier 401 lets you freight guard brokers, but at the same time, like
sure,
carriers are if you want better reports, and carriers should be having all Carrier 401 accounts.
Yeah. It should be a two-way street. That's all I'm saying. It should be fair.
Well, that's the carrier's fault.
If it's not a carrier's fault,
like,
if you have a way to prove it that it's not your fault, and you have like GPS location.
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying it's the carrier's fault for not having one for the brokerages.
Sure.
Because
I guess.
Like that's for the carriers.
In a way, but all I'm saying is there is anybody ever going to be listening to us who's capable of creating such a portal should probably do it.
Yeah, we'll see how many viewers we get.
It's going to be very popular. It's going to be very
popular. If someone's creating a broker 411 or anything like that, just let us know.
We can claim our idea.
Yeah, we can claim we got an idea right here. Our idea.
I'm sure a lot of people had that idea. It's just
we got Furman 000. Why Furman?
Something like I don't know.
It's like he's a dispatcher out here. He's from Ukraine.
Yeah, you should text him and ask him. I have no idea why he has that name.
He sent me his MC number once. He was afraid to send me his MC number because he's like, "Oh, you're a broker." I'm like, well, I mean, like, I'm not really brokering freight right now, so. Yeah.
It's okay.
No, it's cool.
That's why one of the reasons we're here, right? We're here to talk about all this.
Yeah.
We talked previously about this whole outsourcing thing, and how how I think communication should improve, right? How I think nobody should be afraid of outsourcing. How I think that there's really,
Well, you should be somewhat worried about outsourcing. There's a lot of issues that could arise from outsourcing.
Yes, but
you have to have a good manager to manage all this stuff that's going on.
Just like anywhere, man.
That's true. 100% true. Yeah, I agree.
There's good people everywhere. There's bad people everywhere. There's people that want to work. There's people that don't want to work. Like you said, you have to hire good people. You have to manage them at the beginning, yes. But I'm not saying everybody has to go out there and do it. I'm saying that if someone does have an outsourcing office, there's nothing bad about it, especially if it's well-organized, structured office and things are smooth and, just everything's been going well for a few years. There's really nothing to be afraid of. Man, Landstar been outsourcing for how long now?
Well, Landstar
You got any fun stories about it?
Landstar's a different story just because...
Why?
Well, it's like a franchise, or it's not Landstar specifically that's outsourcing. It's agents for Landstar that are outsourcing. So if I wanted to work under the Landstar MC, I could literally, I think you pay some fee and you're in the Landstar network. I could utilize their MC, for shippers, for brokers, for trucking companies. And it gives me access to their whole database. Like they have their own database where they could post loads to their 10,000 trucks. And it's huge. I've worked with a guy from Landstar in Bosnia. But I mean, it's not Landstar to open an office. It's just someone that became an agent in America for Landstar, and it was like Bosnian, and it was like, I want to open office.
No, I get it.
Bosnia. So, like, for me, it's at the same time, there's a lot of shady stuff going on with Landstar and the double brokering. It's, I mean, at least I've heard, I don't know anything specifically, that there's some shady stuff going on. But it's not like, overall, like, in my opinion, Landstar is a good company. They actually do a lot. I know, like, people trash on Landstar, and I got banned off of Instagram for a couple. But ever since then, I've built a relationship with the guy in Bosnia, and I mean, he does a great job for me. He books my loads, and
that's what I just said. There's great people everywhere, right?
That's 100% true.
But there is, there's like so back in the day, like there were days when I only began working 2008, so I remember it briefly, right? But there were times when a lot of people were making fun out of CRobinson, right?
Yeah.
They were calling them, CH. They were calling him cheap and heavy.
Yeah.
And then I think in 2010, maybe something like that, either management or just overall approach changed a lot. And I think it changed with the acquisition of FreightQuote. I told you about it earlier. And they've changed a lot, right? Either they changed or I don't know, something happened, right?
Sure.
And the overall approach to a company, the way to do their business, has changed a lot. And to what at least people that I worked for and people that I know, I think CRobinson is one of the well-organized, well-lubricated brokerages out there. And yes, they're huge and all that.
Lubricated, keyword.
Lubricated, okay.
Yeah, very lubricated.
And they're like, they became a lot more advanced in, towards technology, and like they embraced the whole thing, and they built this new office in Chicago, and they've changed a lot, right?
Sure, they also have a lot of money.
Yeah, and Landstar didn't.
Oh, Landstar's also.
That's a part of the problem with it.
Sure, Landstar didn't, but they also have a different structure than CH because you can't just become an agent for CH Robinson.
No, I get it. They do have a different structure, but they're kind of still the for what I've seen so far, at least, they've used to be that, Landstar that everybody knew and respected. Okay. And after they started allowing this outsourcing with their, carrier, with their
agents,
it kind of went downhill. I don't know, at least for people that I work for.
The quality went downhill, but the amount of money they make went up.
Maybe.
Dramatically.
Hopefully it did. But at the end of the day, if your quality goes down, you know what I mean, you're gonna keep losing customers, and it's just not gonna go well overall.
Well, yeah, I agree. I agree that obviously quality is very important. Yeah. At the same time, what Landstar is doing right now, we're crushing it. They've done very well with the numbers and the stock market. They're up 100%, I think, in the last year and a half. So
good for them.
Yeah. No, good for them. And I wish I had invested in Landstar, to be honest. I mean, I didn't really I didn't like them until the past few months when I built a relationship with a guy at Landstar, and we talked and
changed your mind.
It changed my mind because I'm like, okay, well, I don't like most of Landstar, but I like this Landstar rep. So and he does a great job, and he tells me if it's a Landstar truck. He tells me if it's not a Landstar truck. But I don't mind. I mean, it works. It works well, and I like the trust and honesty. I'm not sure exactly if we'll be able to post this clip on Landstar though, because I got banned by Landstar for 2 weeks off my Instagram.
It's okay. We'll post it on YouTube.
Yeah.
We don't care.
I could get banned on YouTube. I don't care. I got 10 followers on YouTube. That's the worst thing that's gonna happen. So, well. Yeah, I mean, Landstar's
it's not like we're bad mouthing them. We're just we're sharing our experience, right?
Sure. No, 100%.
Like I said, I'm not saying that everybody's bad out there, but listen, there's things, to be improved, right? Ways of communication improved recently 100%. In years. And I think there's a way to, nothing's going to be ever perfect, but there's a way to improve certain things, right?
Sure.
There's a bunch of companies out there that I know 6-7 years ago, I wouldn't, touch him. I wouldn't want to book a load with him.
Yeah.
But 5, 6, 7 years later, a lot changed, and now, a lot of them changed their approach. A lot of them changed their mind to work with Eastern European carriers as well, because that's kind of, a stamp too, because you have an accent, you're from Chicago. Oh, you know what? Screw you. I'm not going to give you a load. Right? There's a lot of that too, right?
Yeah. Well, nowadays, Armenia's on the spotlight, with all the double
California,
brokerages.
Right?
Glendale, California. So I don't know if it's like a mafia, Armenian mafia. And for someone for sure is going to watch this in Armenia, and they'll know more. And I actually want to go to Armenia, visit them, the offices.
That, be visiting, right?
I think it'd be fun. I have a lot of followers from Armenia. So someone's going to watch this from Armenia.
Okay.
And I don't know what they're doing, but so they just have hundreds, maybe thousands of MCs. And they have a few double brokerage MCs. They have about thousands of trucking company MCs, and I think 3 or 4 brokerages. So, So I mean, what they do is they have all these accounts, MCs, and then everyone else is in Armenia, literally, and they're supposedly the owners are making a lot of money doing what they're doing.
It's fine.
The freightways. I mean, ethically speaking, I don't think it's fine. I mean, I don't have nothing against Armenia or the Armenian people. I like them a lot. One of my best friends in high school is Armenian.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with, people in Armenia, but, like, and there's nothing wrong with the work that they're doing, but like from like, owning a company in just like a moral, ethical standpoint, like I'm not gonna give a load knowingly to a double broker, and
well, that's a different story.
Like,
double broker.
okay, for Landstar it's fine because I know Landstar is gonna pay the trucking company that they give it to 100%. Landstar always pays. They're great at paying. If I give a load to a double broker from Armenia, how am I supposed to know that he's gonna pay the trucking company, and then it's gonna fall on me to pay the trucking company? So
sure, but either way, like you said, right? It's unethical in a way, but people do it from all over the world. People work from Kansas City who can potentially double broker your load, right?
100%.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I the cliche, right? It falls on them because they've did something because
There's
whatever.
so many
right?
of them. Terry, if you were a broker, you would literally post a load and you got 20 double brokers from Armenia calling you, whereas one real trucking company out of those 20 will be, a real trucking company. It drives people crazy.
How do you know that? How do
I know
differentiate?
if they're 818 area code, whatever the area codes from Glendale are, 919. It's like, you're posting a load from like PA to Texas and you just have Glendale, California numbers blowing up your phone. You get like Barry Johnson.
Do you think they're never thought of changing the area code?
They have a few different area codes. It's predominantly Glendale, but they do have like I think they bought some MCs from Philadelphia and
Birmingham, Alabama. I mean,
well, maybe it's
you don't have to have an MC from Alabama to have a phone number from Alabama, right?
I had an MC to sell, and I literally had I think like 50 Armenians message me to buy my MC.
Okay.
So, and it was just from when I had like maybe 2,000 followers on my Instagram account. So I had a lot of people reach out to me just to buy an MC from Armenia when I was selling it back a few months ago. I mean, they're obviously buying MCs. That's like, if they buy an MC, like they'll make money off of it within a few days because they have lots of people in Armenia. I mean,
just throw more and not pay, right?
I'm not like, they could do what they're doing. I'm not going to work with them. But I mean, if they have customers, if they have brokers that are willing to work with them, all power to them. They could do what they want.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. It is what it is, right? And sooner or later, it floats on the top, right? And everybody knows about it. So what's the point? But
I don't know how long term it could be. Like, how long will they last out there? I don't see like to be lasting.
How long you've seen them last so far? I'll be honest with you. Back like a couple of years ago when I was in trucking, I haven't heard so much stories like you're telling me now.
I think recently it really like accelerated.
It accelerated.
It's like nonstop. Like it's like every load I post, I have people like messaging and emailing me. It's like I feel like it probably took off like maybe a year or two ago, like to a point where it was pretty regularly, and now just even more regular. It's like every load you post on, you're gonna have a double broker from Armenia with a fake name.
And that's the kind of regulation I'm talking about, right? So I'm not saying that everybody has to report on something everywhere all the time, but these are the type of things that somehow must be regulated. I don't know on what level, but I think it's like you said, it's not even about moral or anything. It just creates a mess, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's a big mess. I mean, we've had a mess before without it, and now even if it's, troubling you or anybody else, or there are carriers out there who are picking up loads for Armenian companies with area code from Glendale, Arizona, to California, chances are you're not going to get paid, right? And and those are mostly whom? Probably American guys, right? They have no idea that this is going on, right?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I have a feeling that a lot of Americans...
Our guys know if this is a guy from Glendale, or Arizona, Jesus Christ, California calling him, right?
Like, I mean, I know all the time. I know if it's a double broker or not from within a second of looking at it.
There you go.
And usually, if you think it's a double broker, it definitely is a double broker. But from my experience, I feel like I've actually exposed them to a point where like someone might want to kill me just because I honestly I'm like shit. Like I'm posting these memes making fun of like Armenians double brokering loads. I'm not trying to make fun of like anyone that's Armenian. I'm just trying to make fun of the fact that all you do is double broker. And it's funny, like I've had people message me like saying like, hey, like, it's not true. We don't all double broker. And then I've had people message me like, yeah, it's funny. Like all we do is double broker. So
which makes sense, right? Not all of them out there who's double brokering. It's like a cliche, right?
Sure,
how do you get rid of it now?
Yeah. I mean, like maybe I push it a little bit too far. I just think it's funny, and people think it's funny too. And people in America I don't think really realize it. Like they just like they don't put everything together, and like they don't see the big picture of it. Like they just like see like someone's calling them all these numbers, and then I make it clear to them like, yeah, that person's from Armenia, and they have a fake name named Barry Johnson. They're gonna have 20 freight guards for double brokering with 0 inspections. You know, like I always look at inspections on carrier 401. It's so important.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's actually the most important thing I look for. I don't even care if it's like an Eastern European carrier from Chicago that has 10 freight cards, because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, like, you know, if I know you have a truck.
You have an actual truck and trailer, right?
Truck. Like and especially in a hot market, you care less and less about that stuff. Like in a hot market, I'm not gonna give a load to someone that's gonna double broker it just because they're gonna fall off last minute.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna create more issues for me. It's like there's no point.
They're not gonna have a truck for you. Right?
Yeah. But sometimes you could get the driver's number if they give it to you and call the driver and see what's going on with the driver. I once had a load like that where
I have actually a subject of a conversation on the driver's phone number and driver's information. So yeah,
we're back at it.
We're back at it after a short break. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the whole conversation about brokers, carriers, and fair, unfair. It's all good and stuff, but at the end of the day, no matter what we do and how we do it, market dictates its rules, right? Things are changing. Things are the way they are now after COVID, after the whole, delay at the ports and all that stuff. There's a lot of that going on as well, and a lot of people benefiting off of it, and a lot of people suffering because of it, unfortunately. Yeah. But what's your take on it? I mean, you've been on the brokerage side more than.
There's a lot of money in it.
I'm sure there is, but do you see brokerages actually struggle more now, or do they benefit more off of it now?
I think everyone's benefiting from the amount of money everyone makes. That's for sure. In terms of like service, everything's standard. The nice thing about being a broker is like usually when you're struggling, every other broker is struggling. Same with the trucking companies. When trucking companies are, when it's easy to find good rates, that means almost everyone can find good rates. When it's tough to find good rates, everyone's struggling. So it's like, like in brokerages, there's obviously competitors, and it's, certain brokerages could offer better customer service due to like some technology or just better trained people. But overall, at the end of the day, like they're all struggling, to find trucks. Just like we're all in the same boat. So therefore, I guess at the end of the day, right now, there's so much money in it. So everyone's making more money. Could you provide, better service if there was less freight? 100%. Yeah. But it's just like any business, I would say. Like every business suffers from those cyclical moments when there's a lot of, a lot of work. And not enough people.
It takes time to adjust, but eventually it benefits everyone. But at the end of the day, like you said, we've talked about this earlier today, that technology played a big role, and that's what I've seen once the ELDs kicked off. A lot changed since then as well. Markets changed, distribution centers changed, right?
Definitely.
Redistribution of the product is done differently now. We've still got, 90% of our freight coming in from Asia, from China, right? So we're still very dependent on them in a way. They're depending on us as a market to sell that freight to, right?
Sure.
To the product to. And we're dependent on them to produce enough to keep the, stores filled. I mean, if you go out today to try to buy anything, almost like technology-wise, right? Cameras, I don't know, anything. It's a struggle. You can't find nothing is in stock ever anymore. In a way, it's a good thing, and in a way, it's a bad thing, right? The bad thing is where a lot of companies out there struggle because Amazon took over certain things, right? Because they have more of that buying power, and that they dictate certain rules to their suppliers.
Yeah,
and it kind of disrupted the market there for a little bit, but they're in that. They're still they've taken up a lot of the parcel shipping, right, and a lot of online sales, but they have not taken over on the raw product side of things, right? So paper that they make their packaging out of still being shipped by trucking companies, by drive-ins, right? Mm-hmm. And it's still being produced in Wisconsin, Minnesota, whatever states, right, that produce a lot of paper. So it changed the market a little bit, but it hasn't changed it to an extent where it's unrecognizable or anything. But at the same time, there's a lot of companies out there now who only do Amazon, right? They only do drop and hooks, right?
Last mile.
5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, drop and hook was a rare case where you needed a trailer or somebody needed you to take a trailer elsewhere.
Sure.
And it was like every maybe 100 loads, you'd have one power only. Nowadays, it's every 5, 10 loads there's a power only
Really?
load, right?
I didn't know that. That's
There's companies out there that I know they operate hundreds of trucks. They have 0 trailers, 0. They only operate on power only trailers. And do they have layovers? Of course they do have layovers, but it is more financially sustainable to operate in such way where you don't have to have a liability of trailers and payments and everything.
Sure.
So it did change the market.
I know it's difficult to buy trailers right now.
It is, yeah.
Like people
like everything else, like cars, trailers, trucks. Yeah. Go buy a trailer even if you had a pocket full of cash.
So
you're just not gonna get one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it's a little more difficult here than in Poland. I don't think Poland has had such a boom in there. Like certain houses are super expensive right now in Poland. Like they not doubled, but increased by 60% ever since the pandemic. But in terms of cars, it's not that difficult. I never heard of issues about logistically they're probably a little bit more slammed than normally, but I think America's experiencing a huge boom.
I feel like it's because they don't have such a buying power back there,
100%.
and they don't buy as much stuff, right?
Definitely.
So obviously, U.S. is the biggest market out there, right? Biggest economy, biggest market. Logistics on its own, what is it, $800 billion, something crazy. I think it's touching $1 trillion in logistics.
I Hate Freight today said it's a third of the GDP. It's the first time.
Yeah.
I've heard of it, and that's crazy. I
don't know if it's a third or not, but it's a lot. It's
a
crazy amount, right?
Yeah.
All these trains full of containers and all these trucks and trailers. It's crazy. But Europe is definitely took a big hit as well because of so many borders and different countries, different regulations, and there's some.
Sure.
I mean, you go online, there's a bunch of that where you see hundreds of trucks sitting at the border, not moving at all because something happened.
Yeah.
Some country released some new law or regulation, and you cannot get in because whatever, right?
Sure.
So that is impacting that too. But like I said, I think these countries haven't felt it as much just because they don't depend on it as much maybe. And ports in Los Angeles, Long Beach is they're still full of these cargo ships sitting, not even docked because not enough trucks to get the containers out of the port, so on and so forth. So it's this pandemic showed us how unprepared U.S. is to take such an impact when it comes to logistics. And I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, right? I don't think it changed the trucking industry by a whole lot. Like you said, it definitely brought a lot more money on the table, but it's about it, right? I mean, some companies did take an advantage of that, and it took their time to reorganize their stuff and become more efficient, buy technology maybe introduce a different process, maybe hire more people, maybe hire less people, maybe hire more people and outsource more. So there's a lot that's been going on for the last year and a half, and a lot is going to change yet. But at the end of the day, coming back to the earlier part of the conversation, I totally feel like people freak out when they hear someone outsourcing logistics, and I think it's a big subject.
More open now than it was a few years ago.
Definitely. And a pandemic one of the reasons it kind of people opened up to it, right? Because what is the difference between you working from home or you working from Lublin, Poland?
Yeah.
If you have the same email, same phone number, right?
True.
What's the difference, really?
I agree with that. I think from a standpoint of just taking jobs away from people in America, that's kind of a topic that a lot of people touch about when outsourcing. But right now with the market,
I feel like it's just a reason for a conversation. That's all.
Yeah, sure. But right now, there's so many jobs hiring, and it's difficult to get people. Yeah. And I think because it's difficult to hire people are like, oh, okay, it could be outsourced as long as there's jobs in America, for people. A lot of people don't like outsourcing because they don't want to have jobs being taken away from Americans.
Okay.
But we see, there's not enough, people here interested in working in logistics. Every company in logistics is hiring right now.
Yeah.
And so
not just restaurants are half empty. Nobody wants to work, man.
Yeah, every place is literally hiring right now.
Yeah.
So in that standpoint, I feel like people are more open to it now. But like, let's say like the unemployment rate was like 10, 15%, and like people were struggling, people didn't have jobs, and you're like, yeah, I'm just outsourcing like 100 people out in Ukraine. They're like they're gonna have a problem with that. You know, like a lot of people will. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
And so like there might be in 10 years or maybe 5 years, if there's there's a huge unemployment rate, then more jobs are gonna come back. And you're gonna play it by year, you know. Like
maybe they're gonna come back.
maybe.
But with expansion of that outsourcing and that stuff of working from home, I feel like it's not gonna happen. Or if it is going to happen, it's not gonna be as drastic or as critical as you think it is, or anybody think it is. Like I've read about these articles online. Like if you want a New York City salary, you have to come to the office. Well, yeah, but I also feel like this is a boomer's logic of things, and they're just the way they see things, definitely. Right? And I'm not saying that this is going to persist or something. I'm just thinking that the whole concept of outsourcing with the pandemic showed us that a lot of people are actually maybe became happier and more satisfied with their quality of life by making less, but instead working from home or something of that nature, right?
Sure.
And not necessarily going to the office. Like, there are people out there who cannot do their job without going to their job site. Office,
I like going to the office. I struggle working from home.
Like, I like going to the office as well. But what I'm trying to say that if you and I stay at home, nobody's going to even notice. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But if the electrician or some guy who does plumbing, right, when you had stuff overflowing your toilet, he can't work from home. He has to come to your place, right? So that's what I'm saying. We should be able to improve ourselves and be able to tell the difference and not be assholes about it. To say, oh, you can't work from home because this plumber works from well, sure, you know what I mean? Like we've had a break. We talked about it. People rode horses back in the day, right? Nobody riding horses now, right? We all drive cars because it makes sense. So I feel like it's that, time has to pass until that concept kind of phases away and people will start thinking a little bit differently.
Sure. I think a big thing about it, or what comes into play, is people in America need to continuously educate themselves and continuously grow in their field. If they're in logistics, don't expect just to be a broker your whole life selling freight. Like, learn something. Try to play a key role in doing something different in the industry, because in my opinion, those kind of jobs will be outsourced.
Yeah.
And unless you
re-educate yourself, retrain yourself,
show that you're worth what you're getting paid.
Yeah.
Because a lot of brokers and a lot of dispatchers are probably getting paid a lot more than they should right now.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to last for long. There's gonna be a big crash in the logistics world. There's gonna be a big crash.
It's not a question of if, it's when, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I feel like the most important thing is, like, no one should be scared of outsourcing. If anything, outsourcing should motivate you to improve yourself and, educate yourself on logistics or play a different role. Logistics isn't going anywhere. Your job might be going somewhere else, but logistics is staying, especially in America. Sure. There's a lot of work to be done. So.
But yeah, there's like I said, technology. A lot of companies out there embrace technology. A lot of companies, embrace their teams and their just overall operation into buying into the technology, spending time, spending money, spending resources onto automation and things, right? Applications, and streamlining their process of dispatching a driver, dispatching information to the information he needs to receive, right? Bill of ladings, all of that. I mean, there's so much that has changed in the last 5 years, not even 15, 5 years. I've seen drastic changes from the day of early 2000s until now. I mean, there's in a way, not a whole lot of things that changed, but things that did changed by 180 degrees. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nobody's using faxes anymore. You know what I mean? I don't remember last time I've heard of someone asking me to sign the rate confirmation. You know what I mean?
But it's all automated, right? You just
well, even not that. Nobody cares about that anymore.
Sure.
It's a thing of a past, right? And are those things that are going to drastically change something within the logistics in general? Probably not, but things just became easier, right? Like it became easier to use your cell phone. I mean, your smartphone, whatever,
Definitely.
right? So same thing here. So I guess to sum it up, it's it's an interesting time we live in and work in within this industry, and I kind of myself glad that I've gotten into the whole logistics and grew myself as a specialist in a way. Continue to read things, educate myself to what I'm interested in, and I think there's like you said, there's big opportunities out there. Technology is going to replace a lot of processes. It's not going to replace people. It's not going to replace your jobs, but it's gonna make your jobs. It's gonna make some people more efficient. It's not gonna be good with. It's not gonna be good to anyone who's lazy and who doesn't want to improve himself. These are the people who's gonna suffer. These are the people who's gonna have to do something different in their life. But at the end of the day, technology is not going anywhere. Just like logistics isn't. And it's not going to replace anyone. There's a lot of carriers that we talk to on a daily basis almost, and their dispatchers and their safety are afraid that if we implement this technology, they're going to fire me tomorrow. That is completely a misunderstanding and misconcept of why companies like them need a technology. And the people who think that way, they're probably the ones to go first, right?
Definitely.
Unfortunately, but either change the way you think about it and try to,
Try to be proactive.
Hold on. There's a saying. There's something about intelligence is an ability to adjust. Okay, I don't remember who said that, but I read it somewhere. So, and I think this is part of intelligence, right? You should be able to adjust, and if you can adjust, then there's not a whole lot anybody can do about it, right? And that's why I think. So yeah, my summary is to embrace the technology, not because I work in a technology field, but because I myself embraced the technology and chose the path. And I could have stayed in operation and dispatch and all of that, but I chose a different path, and it wasn't easy. But I truly enjoy myself today. That I can say for sure.
Yeah, no, it's. I feel like for me the most important thing is to stay in logistics. I don't want to leave logistics. I like logistics. I think there's a lot of money in it, a lot of opportunity in it, and I just want to do something cool in logistics. Something different, something new, something that will, his FreightCaviar page is just like a way to get people in. Like talk to them.
Cool way to communicate. Yeah.
Yeah, like we met on FreightCaviar. Yeah. Like I met like so many people on FreightCaviar, and like. If I were to just be looking for a job right now, I could like post on my story like, hey, I'm looking for a job. I'll have like a lot of options, Sure. So it's there's so many opportunities nowadays, like where you could go out there and learn something new, network with people. That's super important, and just try to get ahead. Advance yourself in any ways possible. If you like logistics and you want to stay in it, you have to do it.
Learn something new every day, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, to sum it up, we're gonna be wrapping this whole show up today. I hope we can get in touch soon and maybe do another one online. I know you're going to be back there, sure. But I'm sure we have more things to talk about.
I should go to your office in Lviv and film one from there.
Yeah, maybe why not? Maybe we'll put something together. We'll see. Yeah, there's a lot of cool people that you can talk to over there. They have something to say, I'm sure. Otherwise, if you got anything to say to your audience. It seems like I'm your guest technically today. We're filming it in our turf here, but I'm your guest today, and thank you very much for bringing me in.
Well, thanks for setting everything up. This has been great. Okay. We bought the caviar.
And we're almost finished. There's still some left, but I guess we're going to finish before we go home, right?
So, for sure. Definitely going to finish before we go home. Real quick, Terry Ivanov, who works for UTech, and created the unique TMS
I didn't necessarily create it myself, but I'm kind of in charge of it. So yeah, a lot of ideas and thoughts went into it. So
yeah, unique TMS.
Unique TMS.
Yeah, UNIQ TMS. Google it. Check it out. Great software. Thanks for coming on, Terry.
Thanks for having me.
Do you have anything to say to the audience?
No, I think we're good. I think I said more than enough today. I've talked about a lot of things. So we're probably going to be posting some stuff on on his page online on Instagram and YouTube. There's a lot more coming up, hopefully soon. And I'm sure it's not the last time we're talking. There's going to be a lot more because I got a lot more to say.
Sure. I mean, so do I.
All right, man.
So, Terry.
Take care and have a good night. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Yes, sir.